Well, here we are with another episode of Dunamis Women Today, and we're so excited because Ariel, our topic is going to be
how to rid the spirit of pride from your legacy.
So we want you to stay tuned, listen up, and matter of fact, tell another powerful woman we're right here.
Dunamis, Dunamis woman, Dunamis, Dunamis woman.
Well, here we are for another episode of Dunamis Woman Today. Oh, so much great, rich dialogue, Ariel, as we have these various topics just about life.
Yes.
Life, legacy, relationships, which is all kingdom. So what are we talking about today?
How to rid the spirit of pride from your legacy.
Oh, that's going to be good for you.
Why is it going to be good for me?
Because you was conceived in all kind of pride.
Yes. I mean, so if you definitely have been dealing with pride, stay tuned for this episode because it's going to be so key. But let's just dive into it. I mean, oh my God, I could just imagine so many people, personalities that are in one family in itself, right? And then, you have all these different personalities and then pride wants to just come on and creep in. And pride to me is one way that the enemy loves to create division. Division amongst the minds. Pride is all a mindset. And so when he can create division based upon different minds, that is really how he can separate and destroy a legacy in a kingdom, because everyone wants to have their own individual mind.
So let's talk about it with two key terms put together: pride, legacy. Legacy is not just the fact that I left my children a insurance policy. I left them a house. I left them a business. I left them this. Legacy really consists of the stories that you impart and tell to your next generation. How I got over, you know what I'm saying? Stories of what I had to encounter, stories of how I did this process, stories of what happened to me, because I see some things parallel, if not some exact same things happening to you. So when I don't do that, now I am bringing forth in my mind, in my life, the spirit of pride, because now the enemy wants me to hide it. Pride hides. And I talked about pride in one of our Healing for My Soul tours with the acronym of perversion reared in dysfunctional environment. On my legacy, we have done some things that I don't even know about, but it passed down to the next generation. I am that next generation. I wondered why, Ariel, and this is where we're going to rid pride, the spirit of pride, just right now. Because I wondered why I was just so promiscuous. You know what I'm saying? Failed to realize that all the women in my family, you know what I'm saying, are promiscuous. But at the end of the day, it's not because we're whores. It's not because we're just women have no dignity or class. It's because we come from a lineage and a legacy where stories was not told about enslavers who took our bodies, you know what I'm saying, misused them, opened up our stimuli. My grandmothers, great-great-great-grandmothers did not have permission. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know how much stuff has gone to the grave from what I did not know, but the few stories that I do know help me rid the spirit of pride off of my legacy, because I have no shame of telling you all that I did do this. I did do that. I did do this. It's not because I'm a bad woman. I'm not, because at the end of the day, most kids hide stuff from their parents.
Yeah. And that I can see where you're going. I remember watching this show and, a mother had a daughter and the daughter had a child. And this has happened in a lot of families. And so the mother got rid of the child for the daughter because she didn't want shame to be on her family. And so
she got rid of the child for the daughter?
Yeah. So the daughter had the child, but the grandmothers of the child got rid of the child because they didn't want shame on their family that her daughter had a child out of wedlock.
Gave it to somebody else to raise.
Someone else to raise. So the child was adopted, whatever.
Yeah.
But the mother was very prideful because you're not going to bring this shame and this secret on my family. So she operated in pride. Now, come to find out, the son found the natural mother. So once the son found the natural mother, the mother saw the son and she wanted a relationship with the son. But the mother was still, I don't want any part of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to see it.
That shame.
Because it's a shame. You're not going to, it literally, it was like, you're not going to destroy this family legacy. You're not going to put shame on this family's legacy. I don't care how old he is and what he wants. So it goes to what you're saying of that, perversion rooted in a dysfunctional environment, that the perversion of the mindset you have, and the pride was rooted in shame, which is what elevated her pride even the more, because of this. You want to keep secrets. You didn't want shame to be on your family. So now, and we see that a lot in, and I'm mentioning this, but then we're going to go to another type of pride. But we see that a lot in matriarchs of family.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's like, I've strived to get us where we are based upon our past and our history. And so your dysfunctions,
I cover it up.
I'm covering up, even though you're being raised in a dysfunctional environment. Because she wouldn't have got pregnant.
But the thing is that, guess what? Christ came through a dysfunctional people.
Yes.
But he did not cover it up.
No.
And so religion teaches us how to cover up, to deem ourselves to be something that we're not. I take good pride in being dysfunctional, because it's only through my dysfunction that, first of all, I recognize I need healing. Second of all, there's a greater strength in me and a power in me to shift it, break the curse. You know what I'm saying? Come to my realization of my true self, get that false identity out, and then live out of that. That's how you really rid the spirit of pride. Because secrecy, shame, you know what I'm saying? All these things that's covered up all this stuff, it's not causing the spirit of pride to be rid from your legacy. It's promoting it. It's perpetuating it.
Oh, yeah. Because like you said, when you have that pride, one, you don't allow healing to come in. So even if you think about a matriarch who has that, healing now can't come into her family. So then everyone individually creates their own level of pride of how to live in this dysfunction. It's typical when you watch a movie, you got that one person who's, okay, shame is in our family, but let me go be successful.
Yeah.
Then you got someone who's like, well, shame is how I want to be a part. I'm just going to be one of those rebels and just go all the way out, right? And it creates more division because that I would say leader of the legacy at that moment is not allowing, like you said, healing to come in, unity to come in, recognizing that I have the authority to be able to break the curses and not push it under the rug and allow that stuff to be able to, just fester.
And I can't, nor you can. And you will even learn more when you become a mother that you can keep doing anything or try to do anything about more so your past. You got to press forward.
Yes.
So this is why I always state here in Dunamis Woman, and let the enemy know the buck stops here. What do you want to talk about? Ariel, what do you want? And I'm not asking you literally now, but I say you and Allison, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
Even what you don't want to know and what you think you know, I'm going to tell you the truth about it. You know what I'm saying? And that ain't what happened. I was there before you were there. You know what I'm saying? I know how you were reared. I know how you were raised. I know how and under the condition you were conceived. It wasn't lovemaking. You know what I'm saying? He just got him some. You know what I mean? But there is no shame in that. And there is no shade on him.
Yes.
We both were dysfunctional.
Yes.
We both, but out of dysfunction comes beauty.
Yeah.
I was reared, conceived, shall I say, in dysfunction. Look at me. I'm beautiful. You understand what I'm saying? Because I embrace my imperfections.
Yes.
I embrace the dysfunction. By embracing it, that means I don't want to stay this way. I'm going to break the curse of it.
Yes.
I can't, my mother is gone. Some things went into the grave that I would never know about. But at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit is going to reveal to me what I need to know to keep ridding the spirit of pride from my legacy.
Yeah.
So now you know. Now Genesis know. As Christina grow up and those who may come even the more, it's our storytelling. It's the truth.
Yeah.
You all.
And that's really another way that, pride can come in is because we try to, step away from our family and create a new life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't even talk about those things. And so many, mothers deal with pride based upon their children because they have raised them in an environment, giving them everything, esteeming them. And I'm not saying you don't esteem your child, you know what I'm saying? But when you have given them so much, and when you make them think highly of themselves in certain areas, then they go off, they go to school, they go to college, they get their job, or even if you haven't done anything, and I'm just speaking and just from my experiences, if a mother hasn't done too much with her life, then this child does more and now believes that I'm better than, right? So you have two different avenues, but it's how you're rearing that child in that environment. And so then now when everyone comes together, it's just this pride of, well, I think I'm your equal because of what you all have given me, and you have grown
or
me
you
up.
better than.
Oh yeah,
or better than.
Better than, yes, because of who I am. So you carry that sense of pride.
Yeah.
And then you have this, like you said, the better than over here, because I've seen you not really live your life or not really grow. And because I now did something better than, now I'm carrying this level of pride as well.
Well, and there's two factors, one thing that really is my pet peeve, because I see how the enemy is working behind the scenes on that. Now, the more that we have broken through this barrier of education, somebody had to pave the way for us to be able to get the education that we able to get, particularly as a Black people. But I'm speaking about my own tribe and race. So now we have these children, they get off to college, they go to college, they get these A's, which is deemed them to be smart. You know what I'm saying? And now they got this degree and they go get this job, and now they feel like my child have made it.
Yeah.
Fail to realize that the core of the soul is rotten. Why? Because there's no child who made it who don't know the story of how you met my father. They don't know the story of why he's not here. They don't know the story of how I was conceived. They don't know the story of your pain. Everybody just covering up the stories with the degrees, with the education, with the accomplishments, with the tangible items. So now we're having a decadent generation that's growing worse and worse and worse and worse. And so now we don't see it. And the spirit of pride is constantly perpetuating because dysfunction is perpetuating. The broken homes are dysfunctional. It's continuing to perpetuate. Well, we got it our norm now that single parenting is okay.
Yeah.
It's our norm. Oh, the father, what matters? I got my job. I may take care of my kids. Many people talking about I'm mama daddy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
That's dysfunction.
Yeah.
So our minds cannot be conformed to what this world think. We got to face the truth and be set free.
And that's why, the opposite of pride is humility.
Correct.
So when we talk about, ridding the spirit of pride from our legacy, how do we do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just say it's a family or a woman watching who pride is just all up in her legacy at this point, right? The kids are grown. She's trying to really bring them all together. How do we now rid this spirit of pride instead of bucking up against this spirit constantly? What needs to be done? What would you say?
Well, first of all, we have to recognize, just like the acronym PRIDE that I utilize to help people understand it: perversion, rooted or reared in dysfunctional environment. Perversion is not sex. Perversion is a mindset that has become distorted. So when I have become victimized and distorted and think less than who I am, that is dysfunction. If I think less of who I am beyond who God made me to be, I'm a dysfunctional woman. When a dysfunctional woman attracts a dysfunctional man and they create that child is automatically dysfunctional. You understand what I'm saying? How to rid myself from that is allow my mind to be renewed. And I can't do that without facing my own truth.
Yes.
You cannot conquer what you cannot confront. I remember when I buried, I'm my father's only child. I have other siblings, but I am his only child from the paternal. So when he suddenly passed, and I'm telling you this story, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
I was 26 or 27 years old. You was 4 years old. So I had you at 26. So I was probably like 28. He passed suddenly. And all that time, I thought I was reared based upon marriage, love making, conceived, shall I say.
Yeah.
Because my name was Andrews. His name was Andrews. I didn't have my mama's maiden name or somebody else's. But when I had to prepare for his funeral, you go through papers then. You see information that you really don't know. And their relationship was dysfunctional. They literally married after, I think she was 7 months pregnant or 8 months pregnant or whatever. So in other words, they wasn't married when I had it. So just like I had to realize, he married her because of me. You know what I'm saying? How many people marry because of the child? That's not harmonious. That's not love. I was literally a bastard child. But at the end of the day, I had to face that truth. It didn't make me feel good, but it also didn't allow me to stay living and alive what my perception was of how I was conceived.
Yeah.
So now it gave me a greater clarity of why they fought so much, why they was at each other, which caused them a divorce when I was 2. Now it gave me more understanding, and I'm using these words intentionally, of why the rejection was so paramount in my life, why the abandonment was so paramount in my life. He didn't abandon me. He left the dysfunctional environment, but still dysfunctional. You know what I'm saying? I have to face all these things. I have to come to grips with all these things. It is not as pretty as it was looking. Sitting in that house on 93rd and Prairie in Chicago, Illinois, we looked good. I didn't even realize, Ariel, we were poor because she made it look so good. But I do recall the hot plate, the blanket, keeping warm. And I deem it is so much relevant in my life because it made me stronger to know how to get what I get and not to work like I do and how to strive for like I strive. But I cannot put my validity in that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that's key because a lot of pride kicks in because of our perception. Of how we believe that things should be or how we believe that things were, instead of really, facing the reality. And that reality, you saw that truth in yourself based upon, his burial and being older. But the reality is if your mother would have sat down at an earlier age and be able to express those things with I want to say, having some discernment of how much. I think sometimes we tell our children way too much that they're ready for, but you used to always tell us things in different seasons, different stages. Based upon how we were developing, how we're growing. You didn't just throw, be like, well, your daddy was all like this at 3. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and some people do that.
Yeah.
Your daddy no good. That's not the type of story
you didn't tell us everything about our dad at 7 years old. Our mind could not have been able to comprehend that. But in due timing, you were able to humble yourself to be able to reveal and speak truth based upon our dysfunction, based upon who we are.
Because I see you attracting the same dysfunction.
Yes.
It would be ludicrous of me. You still have your decisions to make. You still have your processes to go through. The law of attraction is not going to ever diminish or die. But at least you're empowered.
Yes.
At least you are equipped. At least you are knowledgeable that this is what's happening. And now you can approach it with a different mindset.
Yeah.
And now you are being fortified. You are being strengthened. You are seeing his miraculous power at work. And now you got a story to tell.
Yeah.
You got a story to tell. As opposed to me. And I had to stay in a posture. This is why I just thank God for healing. Because even in the midst of me leaving your father, the divorce or whatever, I stayed in a posture where I never took you all away from him. That's why I said, how can you take somebody away from their father? Well, your father never paid me child support. It wasn't about that. It was about that no matter what he was or who he was or how he was, he's still your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
God chose that sperm out of many men that I've been with to meet this egg to create you all. Were you all, I just love horse and we just had mad passion and love making? No. But you're now able to handle the fact that you were a love child, but it wasn't in the love of what we should have been. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's empowering to know, I hope.
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, because
now do
helps
differently.
Me, I mean, because it
do differently.
It helps me understand that it just wasn't by happenstance, first off. And even just knowing, how we were conceived and the struggle you even had of conceiving, all of it plays a part in my presence, my place within this earth has a purpose, you know what I'm saying? And that purpose is also attached to you as my mother, him as my father, because that is what I'm going to attract. That's who I am. Instead of me trying to, in my pride, negate the father, negate the mother, and become my own individuality.
And that's the spirit of pride.
Yes.
When you want to come your own individuality.
You come on your own individuality.
And forget realize
who you came from.
Who you came from and who you came through in our own mess.
Yes. And that's why, to break the spirit of pride from legacy, I hear you saying, but the first thing is, one, humbling yourself to heal, because you can't really reveal these things without healing. Hurt causes you to conceal. It causes you to be able to say, well, I'm not ready for those things. Healing allows you to be able to say, okay, now in due timing, as I'm going through my healing process, as I'm humbling myself based upon what I see in my legacy, some things need to be revealed. And the truth of the matter is, I tell people all the time, when I'm coaching, especially it comes to children, whether you're an adult child or whether you're a young child, many children want to know. We nosy. If you sit down and be like, let me tell you about that, we're going to be like, what? No matter how educated I am, no matter how busy I am, you want to know, because it's our natural instinct to want to know information about necessarily who I am. But first thing is that if you have reared your children in certain areas of life and you haven't went through a healing process, you got to first humble yourself, because a lot of times we're trying to break the pride off of our children, our legacy, when we haven't sat down to really humble and heal in some areas to be able to know how to strategically reveal certain things.
And healing, Ariel, empowers you to tell your story really effectively, because it's really just telling the truth.
Yeah, that's
I tell people, whether they come on Dunamis Woman Today, whether they on the radio, whether they live, whether they whatever with ourselves, I said, what are we talking about? The truth. What you want me to say? The truth. When you tell the truth, it's not necessary to try to remember anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to prepare for anything. I could preach a sermon on the truth. You know what I'm saying? I just know where to go to substantiate that sermon. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we all got to recognize that dysfunction is there, and it's a beautiful thing. I look at the fact that what I had to stand for as the woman, not just the mother, the woman, to make sure that you all remained whole in certain cases of what I could do. That means I had to still esteem your father.
Yeah.
I still had to respect him.
Yeah.
It don't matter if we was together or not. I still do. And it feels so good that even now that you all are developing into powerful women, 30-something years old, that we can still come together this day when we need to, concerning not only you all, but now our grandchildren. And even when we're together, I intentionally say, Horace, our.
Yeah.
Our. When he calls me, what do you want about our daughters? You see what I'm saying? It ain't no my.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all this dysfunction leads to the my.
Yeah.
It leads to the I. And that's where the spirit of pride is. Our. You can't do nothing by yourself.
Yeah.
God intentionally made it that you can't even have a child by yourself.
Yeah.
How you think you got a daughter and the father ain't nowhere near?
Yeah.
Because he's in her. He's in her. You know what I mean? He's in you. I see him.
Yeah.
I gotta be whole not to slap you.
But pride also comes, from trying to, and I'm just speaking from my experience, I had to humble myself in a lot of areas because, you are part of me, but there was also times where I wanted to run from that part, and pride had to really, do a work in me because I was always compared to you. It was always like, oh, you little D, and you look like her and you talk like her and you got the same birthday. And it was just like, I developed in my mind, I don't want to be anything like her. You know what I'm saying? Only because it was just always this comparison constantly. And there were some things that I saw that I was like, I'm never doing that. I never want to be a part, do that. And as I'm getting older and I'm learning that those things are also in me, but I had to humble myself to really embrace the beauty of being your child. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, Like I said, I could create whatever identity I want to create, but that's not really who I truly am. That's a false sense of self. And I can be able to see who you are, embrace good things about you, still not like the bad things about you, but I don't have to run and be the opposite of that. I can just learn, I can grow, I can develop, but it doesn't have to be a distaste within my mouth. And a lot of times children have a distaste for their own mother or their own father, like, ugh, I don't want to be anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the tricks of the enemy, because the more you have that distaste, the more you will become. And
the reason why it makes it a place for the enemy to come in is because what you're really saying is, God, I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
God, I don't agree with who you chose.
Yes.
I don't agree with I used to always ask God all the time as a little girl, why her for my mother? Why her? Because I thought she was crazy. She was a disciplinary. Why her? But I see God chose me to come through Lena's womb for such a time as this. And I'm grateful, because why? I wouldn't have what I have now if it wasn't for that crazy woman back then. You know what I'm saying? Is she perfect? No, because there's nobody perfect. Everybody, whether you're a mother, father, sister, brother, daughter, son, you got good, you got bad, and you got ugly. It's a part of being human.
Yes.
Embrace the ugly. Okay, thank God for the good and work on the bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you rid yourself from the spirit of pride. We all dysfunctional. Nobody is better. Whether I drive a Bentley and you drive a hoopty, you're still not better than me, and I'm not better than you. You know what I'm saying? It's just what we all have to come to stay in a place of harmony and unity.
Yeah. And truly, if we really love Christ,
that's the key right there.
And we have a love for Christ.
That's the key right there.
Like you said, we disagree with God to say, I don't know if I should have came to that. And we're already creating division between God our Father and who we are as his daughters, because we're basically saying that as my father, you didn't do right. As my father, you didn't choose right. And so it's important for even ourselves as an individual to humble ourselves, because if we continue to have that distaste, or we continue to have that disagreement, and now we go rear and develop our own selves into who we are, and then we have our children, you're automatically conceiving them and bringing them into that pride, that perversion, reared in dysfunctional environment.
And they're going to have a false sense of self.
And they're going to have a false sense of self. Yes, and we really believe in our mind that we're creating something new for our children. And we're not creating new, we're creating mess, covered on mess, because at the end of the day, God made you. And if you don't know who you are to the core, to the true core of who God has created you to be, and like you said, who you came from and who you came through, no matter what you do, and we like to soften it with, well, I'm just breaking the curse. That's not breaking the curse. No, it's not. If anything, that's perpetuating the curse, because you're not being true and real to who you actually are. And a lot of us don't want to face that because it's scary. One, because it's going to cause us to sit down and humble ourselves. But at the end of the day, that's how you come in full alignment with Christ.
And the thing about it, it's going to require you to do some work.
Yeah, it is.
Because just getting up, going to work, paying the bills, taking them to the football game, taking them over here, that's not work.
And you look up and you wonder, God, how my kid acting a fool doing this?
Yeah.
Well,
because you got to do the work.
Yeah.
And Ariel, this is why I don't, people say, well, Ariel, when you going to do this? When you going to do that? You got a lot of information from what stories have been told. There's more. Keep a living. I'm going to be around. But you have a lot of insight right now to make wholesome decisions. But at the end of the day, you can see some things in those decisions. You can see some things. Now you know how to handle them. So now it tells you when to do things, what to do, and why you're doing it. I wouldn't care if you was 58 years old getting married for the first time, because at the end of the day, you're breaking the curse that divorce ain't going to take place. You don't need to rush in at 34, 34, 5 or whatever. God's timing is empowering you to see and to know. So when you get in it, you're very much equipped to handle the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to have your kids that's going to have good, bad, and ugly.
Yes.
But it's not the fact that it's a dysfunctional thing. It's who we are.
Yes.
And we can do great exploits with it.
Yes.
Well, we thank you for joining us for this episode, and we hope and pray that you were immensely blessed. Now take it, run with it, break the spirit of pride off of your life. If you just sit down and tell your children, your sons, your daughters, your wife, your husband, whomever's watching this, a story. Stories go a long way for his glory to be revealed. I'm Pastor D.
Dunamis woman.
You know, there was a moment in this episode where we talked about, that you can start attracting the same dysfunctions, especially when you operate in a spirit of pride. Pride makes you believe that you will do differently. Pride makes you think that I'm going to attract something totally different. But when you operate in that spirit of pride, you're really attracting the dysfunction that has been hidden within your legacy. And this is why it's important to break that pride, because you don't want to attract something that you really don't know about. And it's inevitable that you're going to attract it, but it's going to mop you up instead of you knowing how to conquer it, confront it, and standing in it with authority, because it's who you are. So humble that pride. Know that you're going to attract your dysfunction, but you have the authority to be able to overcome it and not let it overcome you.